big short squeeze, hugely overbought. Hugely overbought. Bitcoin's as overbought as I've ever seen it. This year, there's not going to be a lot of taxes paid because last year was so crappy. So I think there's not going to be a lot of downside pressure in March, April this year. So my guess is we'll probably start earlier rather than later. We'll probably have an early summer as opposed to a late summer. The fair value is 100K per Bitcoin. How close we stay to fair value is the question. Do I think we get there by the end of this year?
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk Crypto. In today's video, we are joined by investor Mark Yusko, the CEO at Morgan Creek Capital Management, who has highlighted the potential of a crypto summer occurring in the second quarter of 2023, and has estimated that Bitcoin could hit $100,000 by 2024. In his latest interview with Cointelegraph, he discussed the current state of the Bitcoin market and explored the reasons for its bullish price action in January. We'll also go into what other factors have contributed to the rise of Bitcoin's value. Additionally, he explains the implications of the Federal Reserve's position on interest rates for Bitcoin, and offers practical suggestions to get ready for the next parabolic bull run in the Bitcoin market. Furthermore, he gives a list of some small assets he is bullish on, and may make for good portfolio diversification, so make sure to pay close attention. Is Bitcoin bound for new lows? Or is this the beginning of the next bull run? Let us see what he has to say about this. But before we do, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we bring you daily content on the latest crypto news. And now, let's jump right into the video.
No, it's not the beginning of crypto summer. It's a short squeeze, a good old-fashioned short squeeze, both in the equity markets and the crypto markets. Everybody was, getting short towards the end of last year. I mean, it was a horrific market, right? Bonds had a horrific market, stocks had a horrific market, crypto had a horrific market. Everything was negative. And what happens when everything's negative, people start selling for tax purposes towards the end of the year. Then what happens is you have to wait 30 days for wash sale rules. And then you can buy these things back. And so what happens, it used to happen all the time, Giovanni, in January. So everyone would do their tax loss selling in December. They'd wait their 30 days. And sometime in January, they would buy these assets back, and you'd get this big move in the things that had done the worst the year before. What I'm trying to say is big short squeeze, hugely overbought. Hugely overbought. Bitcoin's as overbought as I've ever seen it. That is not a condition to start a long-term bull run, right? That's a condition for short-term weakness and kind of a retracement, and then the start. But the pattern we need to look for is, even though there's chop in spring, what you're looking for is a series of higher lows. Now, you like higher highs too, but that's not as important as higher lows. If you keep making higher lows, that means there's accumulation pressure in the market. And I think, we're going to be range bound in this, call it 20 to 24 range for a while. Then we'll be closer to that summer period. And I think that's just time, place, and events, April-ish. And again, seasonally, Q2 and Q4 are the most positive for Bitcoin. So it's setting up to have a pretty nice move April, May, June this year.
At the time of writing, Bitcoin is trading at $22,880, up 36% in the last month, but we can already notice this rally has been losing steam during the course of the last 5 days. Usually crypto markets tend to remain depressed during interest rate hikes, but as the Fed seems to be slowing down, does Mark see a pivot coming anytime soon?
I think zero chance they cut rates anytime soon. The Fed clearly is not loosening, right? They're not tightening as quickly, but they're still doing QT. They're still shrinking their balance sheet, and they're still raising. But the PBOC has unleashed a huge wave of liquidity. I mean, they are flooding their market, and Chinese stocks are up a ton. Chinese markets are rallying. economic activity is surging, and China drives liquidity around the world. So used car prices are now plummeting because there's more cars coming in, China's reopening, all that good stuff. So I think by the end of this year, CPI is going to be close to, it could be zero, it could be negative, month over month, quarter over quarter. But, trailing numbers probably be around 2%. That's not a situation where you need to be tightening. There will be a tailwind, I think, for digital assets. The market is saying by the middle of this year, the Fed's going to be cutting. Now, I think that's too aggressive. I don't think that's going to happen. What I do think is very likely, is the Fed signaling that, okay, we're good, but that will be interpreted as we're going to cut, and then risk assets will explode again. Crypto markets, particularly Bitcoin, are very uncorrelated to stocks, other than for very short periods of time during deleveraging. The only time correlation rises is when Bitcoin is being forced to be sold because there's too much leverage. There's not as much leverage in the system as there was. We had a big deleveraging. In the crypto market, I'll argue there's very little leverage left. Very little leverage left. So the idea there's going to be a bunch of unwinding in crypto, not very likely. Now, is there still leverage left in stocks? Yes. Could that deleveraging cause people to sell Bitcoin? Less. Why? Because they already sold. So now what we have is a holder base that's very different from the holder base of stocks and bonds. I think Bitcoin and equities are going to be very, very uncorrelated this year. And I think this is a big year for Bitcoin. The last phase of the bear market is the toughest part. My belief is we start out of that cycle a little bit earlier. I think the market always anticipates the halving. So if the halving is, maybe you're right, maybe it is March, April, but sometime in that Q1-ish zone of 2024, 9 months before that is usually when the beginnings of summer start to, the crocuses start to pop and the buds are. This year, there's not going to be a lot of taxes paid because last year was so crappy. So I think there's not going to be a lot of downside pressure in March, April this year. So my guess is we'll probably start earlier rather than later. We'll probably have an early summer as opposed to a late summer, would be my guess.
If we look at the history of Bitcoin's price action around the halving, last cycle the price of Bitcoin raised about 17% in the year prior to the halving, while the big rally happened right after, with a move of 550% increase in price. If history is going to rhyme, then we should see some price movements prior to the halving, but not an explosion type of event. That being the case, it looks a bit unlikely that Bitcoin can reach $100,000 by year end. So what should we do to prepare for the next bull run? Let's see what kind of tips Mark has to share on how to build a portfolio in the meantime.
If the halving number is 100, if that's the target, and then we back up from that, we say, all right, well, where are we today? We're at, 23,000. Where should we get by the time the halving occurs? Could we be back to 50, 60,000? That's a pretty good guess. Then as we approach the halving, we start to accelerate into the target, and then we parabolic past it. The fair value is 100K per Bitcoin. How close we stay to fair value is the question. Do I think we get there by the end of this year? Probably not, but could be surprised, right? Don't wait. Buy. Buy some today. Buy some tomorrow. Buy some the next day. Buy some next week. Buy some next month. Don't buy it all at once. Pick a number, right? I say, 3 to 5%, whatever the number is. If you're younger, that number can be higher. I'm talking a 3 to 5% core position in Bitcoin, higher if you're younger. That's what I'm talking about. Now, beyond that, you want to invest in Ethereum as a platform that builds out the infrastructure around the digital future, great. Law of small numbers says Ethereum will outperform, right? It's a smaller asset base. If there's a bull market, it will likely outperform. And history tells us the smaller market cap assets outperform in bull markets. So if you want to own a core asset forever, accumulate Bitcoin. If you want to have a portfolio of other technology investments that you think have a higher upside potential, own some other things. Own Ethereum, own Avalanche, own Polkadot, own Cosmos.
There are many different theories on the trajectory the crypto market is going to follow moving on. The truth is that the market direction depends on so many factors that it makes it harder to predict with accuracy which of the trajectories would be more possible. However, Yusko and other Bitcoin maxis believe that 2023 would be the year for Bitcoin, and he advises young investors to start building their crypto portfolio by gradually accumulating over time. He also suggests starting with a core position in Bitcoin, and then diversifying into other assets. How are you preparing for the bull run? And what are your thoughts on Mark's latest prediction? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Let's Talk Crypto, and we'll see you in the next video.